Emotional damage.
Alright, I'm back from that traumatic experience of a Duelist Cup. Grinding a lot again. Was hating myself for the second half of it. Not gonna lie. I peaked at I peaked at around like 27k because like I didn't really care about getting top 1 downs or anything. I wanted to see how high I could finish, and well, yeah, we settled down at around, I would say, around a top 2k ish with 21k. And here's the deck I used. So first of all, it's SWORDSOUL TENYI. There's absolutely nothing interesting to talk about the deck list itself. Besides, I guess maybe Gamma is not very standard. I think it's really good in this deck because this is the best hand trap, the best single hand trap in the game. If you only have one hand trap, this is probably the only hand trap that might end turns by itself, especially against Spright or Ishizu Chaos. And this extra deck slot, Psychic and Punisher, this should not be here, I don't think. A lot of people said they like this. I went into this like twice, and neither of those times did it actually matter. I think what you should actually run in the 15 slot is either you could run a third monk. Whoops. You could run a third monk, or you could run Danglong. Now, I'm not running Danglong because I don't have Danglong, and I'm not crafting a UR for this, for a card that I go into like once every 10 duels, but technically I think this does come up more than Monk, and there are lines with this where you can search Protoss. I also do not know the Danglong line, so that's also why I do not use it. So one thing I noticed in this deck while I was grinding into the high 20k DP thresholds during Duelist Cup was one of the biggest limitations I saw with this deck was this deck has no one card combos compared to everything else, you know, like Ishizu piles, Runic Spright piles, or like Ishizu you can get like 1 million and then you can build like up to 19-20 cards and you're good. Like Runics, any Runic variants, you have 5 cards in your hand that all do the same thing, so like you're always gonna have the right combination of cards. And for Spright needs 2 cards as well, but when Spright has 2 cards, they can play through like 2 to 3 hand traps. Like for SWORDSOUL TENYI, you need 2 cards just to say you're playing the game. And if you get hand trap or you get disrupted, you need yet another card of another worm to be able to play through a disruption. So like ideally, if you're going first in a 5-card hand, you want 3 engine pieces in your hand, which is quite a lot to ask for. I lost quite a few games where, despite winning the die roll, worst case I would open unplayable, but a lot of times I would just open hands with only 2 worms, and I would like lose to a single hand trap. That's another reason I put Gamma in, because Gamma can be, in this deck it's easy to trigger Gamma on your turn. You know, you have infinite ways to bait Ash, infinite ways to bait Maxi, such as with your TENYI monsters or Ecclesia, and because you're playing SWORDSOUL, right, there's usually not many good Ash targets if you have a decent hand, so they will fire off their Ash immediately at the first opportunity that presents itself. So like if you just open Emergence and they Ash you, then your Gamma's there. And you know, theoretically, Gamma was live a lot for me during my turn, but my opponents either just didn't have the Ash or Maxi, or you know, they're playing Ishizu and they would herald my Gamma anyways, and it wouldn't matter. So yeah, that's another thing. You know, Ishizu kind of Calbeck kind of good against Longya, not gonna lie. That was really annoying. As well as playing in the high 20k DP range. I mean, yeah, they're not really here for a SWORDSOUL deck profile. Everyone knows how a SWORDSOUL deck looks like. You're here for the gameplay, so let's get on to that. So I'll briefly go over my thoughts and experiences with playing SWORDSOUL while my opponent's comboing, since they open called by in a 60 card deck, as they always do. Well, I really like how SWORDSOUL, a lot of their worm plays, how especially if you're going second, you have a lot of cards in your hand that are live, like Ecclesia, like your TENYIs, your Longyuans, cards that don't consume your normal summon, so you can use up your entire hand going second to play through your opponent's boards and interruptions, and it's really fun being able to bait opponent interactions and outplaying them that way. That nice allure, nice allure, dude. The problem is for every one game where I had a cool play where I could interact, where there was interaction back and forth, and I could play through my opponent's board, you know, quote unquote skillfully by outplaying their negates. There would be 3 other games where either, you know, Master Duel special, one of me or I or my opponent bricks, and you know, it's not really a game. Another instance is where I lose the die roll and I don't open a hand trap, and my opponent's on Ishizu Chaos and FTKs me, or they're on Runic Floodgates and I can't play the game. Or option number 3 is I go first, my opponent doesn't have destruction for me, and I drop a Protoss on them, and then the game immediately ends because Protoss is totally not a uninteractive floodgate that deserves to be banned. You know, totally not. You know, fair. It's a completely fair and balanced card, I always say. Okay, so I tried saving the matches where at least we get to play the game. Both of us we get to play the game. So anyway, it's finally my turn, and the SWORDSOUL TENYI, as long as you can play the game, as in you're not getting floodgated out and you're not getting FTK'd, you should always try to play out duels, since you can use your entire hand, as many live cards as you want, and your opponent, if your opponent messes up one of their interruptions on you, then that could be it could be over for them. You could actually play through most boards that way. Case in point here, my opponent's board is Baron, IP, and Colossus with one Snow Engrave. You know, not the best board, admittedly. I've seen Ishizu Chaos do much better than this, but it still should be good enough to use it properly. My opponent, however, on the summon of Ecclesia, uses IP on Avermax, that does nothing right now, and then on this effect of Ecclesia, summons Snow, and Snow books my Moye, even though I still get a token. And then, because they milled a Vashuda for me with their millers, with their Zombie Vampire, now Vashuda gets to bait out the Baron. And just like that, all 3 of their interruptions are gone. You know, I feel like if you press buttons randomly, you could have probably used up your interruptions better than what my opponent just did. So anyway, there is a line now, because they also mill pros for us. We're gonna kill them and end it in 1 turn. So anyway, Ashuna, summon out Adara, activate Longyuan, especially the Longyuan. Go into the Yazi line with Longyuan and Adara. Yazi will pop whatever, summon Taya from the deck. Taya will banish the Protoss, very important, to summon out another token. Go into Boxia. Boxia spin back 2 random cards, doesn't matter, and then Taya will send something to the grave, that doesn't really matter. Next, Adara can add back the Protoss that we just banished with Taya, and then Boxia pop itself, it's whatever. Now here's the thing. In order to out this Avermax, we need to go into Longyuan, and or we need to go into Changing. And as you can tell, I used both my Longyuans already, because this card is semi-limited for some reason. But the good thing is, for those of you that play SWORDSOUL, you guys know that Siphon Driver is the best SWORDSOUL monster. It is a level 6, so you can use this to make Changing with. And now we summon Protoss and Changing triggers, and we win the game. Now, if you guys aren't convinced on Driver yet, this will be the game to convince you. So my opening hand, it's okay. We can Emergence for Taya, normal Taya, and reveal Vishuda. And this is the most standard SWORDSOUL combo you will ever see in the game at my best friend. Next, long end pitches, going to Baron. Now, I don't like going to Baron turn 1, usually. I only go into Baron turn 1 if I open like 3 non-engine cards along with my Worm play. So in this case I have Ash, Maxi, and Callby, so like now Baron's fine I guess. I already have 3 pieces of non-engine interruption, so I can take the Omni. But usually I prefer to have a Cheesing Longen in place of Baron, because usually that means you get to draw an extra card if you make Cheesing Longen first instead of Baron, or at the very least it means you probably had access to Ashuna, which lets you get your TENYI plays going, and that can either set up a Shifana engrave with a Monk on field for additional form of disruption, or an Adara engrave which can add back a Worm for follow-up on the next turn. And at the same time, having the Monk out there also gives you another target for blackout. So yeah, you don't have to black out your own Synchro Monster, you can black out a spare Monk. But since, you know, we have the Master Duel attacks in hand, you know, we don't... I figured this hand is good enough to make Baron. Our opponent's playing... Well, I can't let Right resolve. Right solos 2 negates by itself, I let it resolve. Their opponent summons Slain Breath of around Salad, so we're gonna maxi that, and that they have to call it by. I'm fine with. We go into Balinks, and I'm gonna call by the Flame Buffalo so they don't get a draw, and this is... It's usually not right to negate Balinks, although in this case, I feel like it's might be okay, since they're down to 3 cards in hand, and we still have an Ash for their play, and we have a Grandmaster negate, so still have 2 interruptions for 3 cards in hand. Oh, something to think about. And it turns out not negating the Balinks ends up biting me, as you'll see later. Anyway, they're gonna Silent Mining, and I'm gonna Ash that so they don't get Gazelle. And now they have Will of a Salamangreat, and they discarded the Foxy, so yeah. Allowing them at the Sanctuary, let them have a live Foxy as a card to pitch to summon it. You know, if they didn't have the Salamangreat Sanctuary, they wouldn't... They'd just have a Foxy on the field, and it would be 2 bodies, and they would be easy. But now, since they have access to 3 bodies, I can't negate any of this stuff, because if I do negate any of this stuff, they're just going to be able to access code and clear my field anyways. And I wanted to see if they saw the line to out my board. And good on them that they did. Instead of going to access code, which I was holding my Chi Shell for, they go into Heat Soul. Now with Heat Soul, they can actually just run over my Chi Shell to remove the negate. Main phase 2, going to access code and clear my Baron. They also drew into Xyz off Heat Soul, must be nice. Now they are locked out of Baguska, so I'm wondering what they were making. And they're actually on IP Masquerade. Like, what a mad lad. How do you fit Froom in your salad deck for this? Anyway, we draw. Hope you guys all see the play here. Special Shifana. Go into Monk. Vishuda bait out the IP by targeting the access code. They're gonna chain IP. And so they're on Unicorn as well. So now, funny thing about Unicorn, right? It has less attack than Driver. So get in there. And we have Shifana in the grave as backup, so if they ever pop our Driver, this is coming back. And here's the funny thing about Salad. I play this deck, I know what's in their extra, and they added 2 extra cards in their extra that I normally don't see in IP and Unicorn. So, because their access code is gone and their trans code is gone, there's not a single monster in their main deck or their extra deck that can run over an attack position Driver. Oh yeah, I'm gonna make them waste their Balinks for now. And we played the Circo Ash game for a turn. The Will is really annoying because it stays on the field and they get a reborn every turn. And they're actually gonna put back the Heat Soul just as another out to the Driver potentially. So my turn again. Driver's still on the field. We draw in the Gamma. That's great. That's just the card I wanted to see. Enter battle phase. Waste another Bailings. You know, deal another 700. This driver's in a lot of value. They have a Gazelle in hand. And they're gonna summon Gazelle. Sunlight Wolf is gonna put back another Sunlight Wolf. They're gonna infinitely grind. They're gonna send Rage. Which is fair. Although the problem is Rage does not out Driver. So when they're outs the driver is actually Mirage Stalio, spin, or bounce driver back to my hand. And now they finally got rid of the super threat of 2500 attack point vanilla. And my turn. I draw a Pot of Desires. I know this is gonna get negated, but I have to. Funnily enough, my only way of winning is to summon back this driver on the field. So I have to. They have a Water Enchantress in the grave, so I'm gonna Pot of Desires just to bait out the Rage, so that it's not live on their turn. And then on their turn, when they go to activate Water Enchantress, I'm gonna activate Gamma and summon back that driver that they gave me. And I'm gonna put in defense. I want to bait him, you know, to attack over my driver. Shifana's still in grave. Hopefully they forget that I have it there. They're gonna go aggressive. Send Will. Gonna go into another Sunlight Wolf. Add back, or go into Update Jammer. Excuse me. Spinny, and then go into Heat Soul. Their last remaining monster actually that has a potential to run over my driver. And fortunately for them, Sunlight Wolf attacks driver. Shifana activates. Boom. Summon back the driver. Goodbye Heat Soul. And now I know for sure there's nothing in their deck that can run over my driver. And they can't even bounce back with Dracovax since we didn't allow them to access their token. Anyway, we draw Infinite Permanence. Excellent, just what I wanted to see. You know, why would I need anything else other than a monster than a Psychic Soldier that rides into battle against the security forces on Currents of Lightning, using the autonomic amplifier called PSY-Frame. Who needs anything else? Wait, our opponent's gonna summon Griffin Rider. This is an awkward stalemate right here. 2800 defense versus 2500 attack and an Imperm. Wait, we finally draw a monster after like 6 turns. It's playable. And fortunately, they don't have an Imperm. They just have the Maxia, so we're just gonna kill them through this. Go into Baxia, target the leftmost back row and Griffin Rider since we have an Imperm for their middle column spell trap. It does anything, which it doesn't. And driver's gonna get in there. MVP. Alright, this is one of the games that shows what I really like about playing SWORDSOUL. And it's where we go second, our opponent's on Flu. I like beating Flu, first of all. Love that matchup. And we're gonna Imperm them, and their turn is gonna end. Unfortunately, they have 2 sets. So now I get to play out my hand, and I'm gonna go into a line that I didn't even know existed when I started my turn. So anyway, we're gonna lead off with Emergence to add a long gun. That doesn't bait out anything like an Ash. So we're gonna summon Ecclesia. That goes through. Now we're gonna summon Taya out of it. Banish the Emergence. Get Impermed. Expected. Then I'm just gonna long gun, pitch Ashuna. Use Ashuna's effect, summon out Adara. We're not gonna go into the Yazi line, we're going into Baxia, try to spin the back row and Floowandereeze map. And they have a Called By. Very interesting that they used Called By here and they didn't use it on the Ecclesia. Thinking. Well, anyway, I got stuck here for like a hot minute, deciding what I needed to do. Cause, not gonna lie, that kind of did screw me over since now I didn't get to dump another worm with Taya, so I don't have a revive target off. Because my plan was to summon Baxia, Taya, dump Moye, and then Baxia, summon Adara, make Monk, Adara add back a worm, Baxia pop itself, get back Moye, and then reveal the Worm I added off Adara, you know, that's the classic. I was not reading the callback because I expected them to call it by the Ecclesia. So now we pivot, and I spend a hot minute thinking about what to do next. Anyway, we're still gonna go Adara into Monk, but normal summon Maxi is very important. Baxia pop Maxi to revive Adara, and then Adara and Baxia make Chowfang. Crucially, this keeps Monk on the field, and because Monk is still on the field, it's a vanilla monster, so I can add back Worm with Adara. Next, we're gonna enter battle phase. Chowfang's secret effect. Hands up if you forgot about this, because I totally did for like 2 minutes there where I was thinking. If a monster my opponent controls is destroyed by battle, I can special summon a worm monster from my deck in defense with the same attribute as the destroyed monster. Guess what attribute Rabina is? Yeah, so that's how we access Moye. And then in the damage step, we can trigger Moye to show a Shuna, get a token. And then main phase 2, we get to do our entire SWORDSOUL line, where we go into Chi-Shao to draw one and then add a card. I'm gonna actually no, we're not gonna add a card. Since I already triggered Longyan this turn, we're gonna banish Blackout to make a token. And then Blackout and the Blackout token and Chang'e is gonna go into or Blackout's token and Longyan is going to Chang'e. So yes, please tribute summon a monster, I dare you. Banish your monster for me. Anyway, they're just gonna add Rabina to hand, and you know, Chi-Shao deals with that. And they're gonna concede after this. Well, no, they're gonna let me honorably attack them for game. What up, driver? Back again. So yeah, that was me fumbling around. I spent about 2 minutes real time looking over my extra deck, trying to see what play I had there, since I was kind of stuck. Unfortunately, I passed my turn with 1 second on the timer there. That's all you need. Alright, there's another game where we're going second. Games where we're going second are a lot more interesting. Well, besides this part, okay, I'ma spare you the agony of having to sit through an entire Pendulum combo. So we'll be right back in a sec.
2 hours later.
Okay, and we're back. Well, no lie, I was waiting for this combo to end on speed up, and it took like a hot at least 2 to 3 minutes on speed up replay with no delay. Please, Kana. Why did you make Pendulum cards? Anyway, if you're wondering, we ashed the double iris so they couldn't get the Pendulum graph, the Pendulumograph, the trap card. They couldn't get the trap card. And this is their board. They got Appaloosa, Vortex, and IP. So our turn, we're gonna fire out Desires, and they're gonna negate that. Jokes on them. I got Adara in hand. They're gonna negate the Adara. They're gonna shotgun it with Appaloosa. They're gonna negate the Vishuda as well. And now we're gonna normal summon Adara, and they're gonna this is what I'm talking about. People will use interruptions on SWORDSOUL incorrectly because they're scared. They're scared of the TENYI stuff. On normal summon of Adara, because they know I have a Vishuda in hand, they're just gonna try to attempt to spin it. And that's where we punish them by chaining Heavenly Dragon Circle to it, put it in Gravestill, and adding a Long Gun. Now we Long Gun pitch Vishuda, special the Long, and Vishuda banish itself to back to Vortex, and Adara will add back to Vishuda. Now unfortunately we don't do a whole combo obviously, but we get to go at least go into Chi-Xing Long Gun. Now I could have chained Maxi to the IP. You know, it's probably a decent idea, because if I drew into a normal summon, I would have won the game on the spot. But I'm not gonna lie, I kinda in the moment, I kinda forgot about it, and it'll work out. Now with this, we can attack over their Unicorn. And Cheating is very good against Pendulum, because you can... The card reads... You can banish one of those monsters for special summon. So if you Pendulum summon a bunch of monsters, they all get banished at the same time. And we also have Max C, since I didn't use it on my turn. We can have Max C for their turn. And they get scared. They're gonna enter battle phase, pop Purple Poison, pop my Cheating Longyuan. And they're just gonna pass. They're not gonna establish any kind of board because they're under Max Seed. You know what a fun card. So anyway, my turn. I draw into a second Longyuan. I'm just that good, and they're gonna chain Max Seed. Do I care? Absolutely not. Dragon Circle, get Ashuna. Adara banish or Ashura put the double Iris back to hand. They can add all their Pendulum monsters to their hand as they want. That doesn't really matter. We got a 4400 chain because we activated Desires, and we're gonna burn them for 12 and attack them for game. So this is a duel where we're going first, and this is what I'm talking about in the deck profile part. Is got a lot of hands like this. You know, not the most playable. Anyway, we're actually gonna set Imperm. You set Imperm in this case because if you activate Gamma, you want to be able to activate Imperm still. You don't want to use Gamma first and then have the Imperm stuck in hand. You know, that's I know a lot of people don't run Gamma very often, so it's not an interaction they think about. But I've screwed myself over many times by Gammaing first and then not being able to use Imperm. So we're just setting it to make sure that doesn't happen. Our opponent's on. This is definitely not Sacred Beast. This is 100% Spright. I mean, they're gonna normal soft prog and we're just gonna Gamma that, but I don't want to deal with level 2 bodies on the field. But yeah, and they're gonna set 2. This one's definitely an Imperm, and this one's also definitely an Imperm. Yeah, so my opponent's gonna summon out the Dark Beckoning Beast. Clearly, they don't run the second opening Spirit Gates. You know what kind of cycle doesn't run 2 bricks instead of 1. So anyway, they're gonna make Almirage, and then they're gonna use Opening Spirit of the Spirit Gates effect to pitch a card to reborn the Dark Beckoning Beast. And we're gonna chain Maxi to that. They're gonna call by the Maxi, and you know that Imperm draw was clutch. You know, we're gonna Imperm the called by column. And that's gonna prompt them to end the turn. They do not want to extend. Finally, we draw into Desires. Hopefully this will draw us into a worm. Never mind. Wait, I want to keep them off of Sprites. So this looks really bad, but I'm gonna normal summon Moye just to attack over the Dark Bending Beast. That way, if they draw into a Spright, they have to pitch it with Spirit Gates in order to revive this. And then if they go into Elf, we still have the interruptions for that. And we're gonna set this end phase. We're gonna get another worm. And that's exactly what I was talking about. They drew a Spright blue. You know, if we kept the Moye in hand, you know, we had to get rid of the level 2 on board first. Otherwise, the Spright blue would have done stuff to us that would not be nice. So yeah, they end up going into Elf, and we're just gonna Imperm the Elf. They're gonna Imperm my Moye, and we're gonna Heavenly Circle to dodge the Imperm. So fun fact, Imperm got to negate a monster to negate the column. And on our turn, finally, we draw into Ecclesia. They're gonna summon back blue. I'm just gonna Ash the blue. I don't want them to have any follow-up in case I don't kill them, which I don't think I do this turn. I'm gonna go into Moye, reveal Taya, and they're gonna call by the Moye, which is... Damn, that's really annoying, because now I don't have a worm engrave to banish off Taya. So I'm gonna normal summon Taya though still. We're gonna punch over their monsters to leave them on nothing. You know, Lojin plus Warrior Digrapher beats. And they're not gonna draw into anything. Thankfully, we draw into the best possible draw. Ash Blossom. Make Yazi go full combo. And opponent's gonna see, they're gonna see that line, and I'll tell you you win grind games with unplayable hands just by grinding it out, and hopefully your opponent draws just as unplayable as you do. Alright, final replay I have to show you. Again, I like showing replays where I go second a lot more than going first, because going first, like, once again, a lot of times it involves the if they have hand traps or not. If they don't have hand traps, they get protos, and then they lose the game, and that's not really, that's not really fun interactive Yu-Gi-Oh to watch. Like, that's how a lot of Shizu pile decks were went. I saw they were on 60, and I shotgun the protos, hope they weren't on Adamantipator, and if they weren't, they just lost the protos. But yeah, going second games are much more interesting. Only gonna draw phase, summon out starter, and we're gonna imperm. And we're gonna imperm the red that they summoned, and they messed up. This combo is absolutely not correct. I don't know what they did here, but they have a spell negate, a monster negate, and a smashers set, and one other back row. So we have one spell in hand, Called by the Grave. They have no interruptions in the grave, so there's no point in me holding the Called by. So once we imperm the Spright red, like, they're done. I'm never acting this Called by. I'm never giving them an opportunity to tribute the red to resummon it. So now they effectively do not have any monster interruptions on the field. Now I get to play as much as I can. Summon Rashuda, go into Monk, and they're gonna Called by the Rashuda early. Once again, they're scared. They fire off the Called by early, even though I could have used it first. Yeah, potentially targeted the Smashers. They could have changed the Smashers anyways. Because, as you see, we summoned Ashuna. Ashuna go into another Monk. Special Adara. And then Ashuna get Rashuda from deck. Now they're gonna fire off Smashers. Banish the... They have the Smashers now, because they're gonna banish the Adara, so we're gonna make Boxia. Boxia clears their board. But it's fine, because we can go into Shaman of the TENYI, special Ecclesia. Ecclesia, get out Taya. Taya, banish Monk. Get out our token. Go into Chi-Shao. Chi-Shao will... Boxia will first dump Moe, and Chi-Shao will add Blackout. And now we have Shaman in the field. So this is yet another line you can do to... The Taya Moe interaction is extremely important for SWORDSOUL. It's like one of the core plays of the deck is to Taya, make a synchro, and dump Moe, and then revive the Moe, and then you can use both of these on the same turn. So Shaman pitch, revive Moe, Moe reveal Blackout. We're locked out of extra deck monster effects that aren't TENYI. But here's a fun fact. What is Draco Berserker? It is a TENYI monster, so we get to attack, clear over their entire board. Chi-Shao attack, Shaman attack, Monk attack, trigger Shaman's effect to destroy a card. Leave them on 2 cards for next turn, with set Blackout and a Draco Berserker. Opponent's gonna normal summon Hyperia, and that's getting banished. Nice level 2 body that you do not have anymore. Alright, we got a game where going second this time. Fortunately, we draw Gamma, and our opponent draws Branded Fusion. They go into Albion, dumping Stay Sailor. Now, I've played Branded Predaplants. This is 100% Branded Predaplants. Or, if it's not Branded Predaplants, it's a really bad Branded variant, and I don't have to worry about that. But with Branded Predaplants, the stuff you're concerned about is the Predaplant stuff, not exactly the branded stuff. So Stay Sailor is going to dump the Predaplant that searches any other Predaplant, and they're going to access their Preda engine that way. So even though this looks kind of bad, like I'm letting their Albion go through, but I want to negate the Stay Sailor and to put them off a Predaplant engine. So yeah, unfortunately, this means their Albion is going to resolve, and they're still going to go into Mirror Shade. In fact, they hard drew Tragedy, which is a shame, and they hard drew a second Albass. So like that's really bad. I was hoping that since they let it of Albion, and if you don't let the safe state resolve, they're gonna have to banish the Albas, so they won't have a live brand in red play. But you know, unfortunately, they just hard drew the 2 cards they needed, the access both tragedy and a live brand in red. So yeah, now we're kind of in a tough spot. Although here's a nice way to play through it. Since we hard drew Shifana, we go Shifana into Monk of the TENYI. Special Adara, or special Ashana. They're gonna trigger Brand in red, and of course they're gonna Ash my Maxi. You know, Maxi can't really ever resolve unimpeded. And now they're gonna go into Dragos Stapelia, probably because they're not on Chimera, and then into Mirror Jade. Unfortunately for them, we get to do this thing called Enter Battle Phase and crash because we have Shifana engraved. This is why I think Shifana is fine. Like a lot of people say like Shifana is like a brick, like Vashuda is a lot better going second. I mean, Vashuda is better going second, but Shifana can largely replace a lot of what Vashuda does against monster-based decks like this. So we're going to enter battle phase, and now they're gonna Mirror Jade, banishing their own Albion just so we can't crash. So now we're gonna go into Vashuda, and we're gonna, since we only run 2 Monk, we're gonna go into Shaman, and then Vashuda they're gonna banish itself, bait out the Dragos Stapelia. They're gonna negate the Shaman with the TENYI. It's fine. Now we get to do SWORDSOUL plays. We're gonna go into Qishao. Qishao, draw 1, Boye draw another. We're gonna add Emergence because, yeah, fun fact, Protos is legal. And what does Protos do against Despia? It ends their entire life. And once again, if you're wondering why the Mirror Jade doesn't trigger to destroy, it was special summon off Adlib. It was not fusion summon, the one in the field, so that's why you don't get the Regeki effect. Yeah, our opponent's gonna normal summon. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. They're gonna crash, and I don't know why they didn't crash into the 1k Monk, but if they're gonna surrender anyways, I don't know why they summon it. So yeah, you know, Protos. What a card to be legal. Yeah, overall conclusion of the deck is the deck is not tier 1 anymore. I would say it's like closer to Rogue if anything in this meta. You know, it had a good run, you know, being top tier for, I don't know, like 4 months of Master Duel's lifespan, or 5 months, or however long since its release. But yeah, like I said, it's just, it has no power. Like the boards it makes up are like, they're okay, but they're basically just, on the high roll, they're slightly better than Spright boards, but on average, they're like actually, I think, weaker than Spright boards. And of course, they play through this Disruption Wars. They have a weird matchup against the Ishizu, of weird matchups against Floodgate and Runix. Like being susceptible to a lot more Floodgates, to basically every Floodgate in the game besides Rivalry, is kind of hurts sometimes. And yeah, just needing too many cards to do things when other decks can do the same thing with 1 card. The main reason to play this deck is Protos, because Protos is always going to be, you know, a fairly unbalanced card when it's legal, and all the best decks in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Have been dark, so that's like the one thing this deck has. If you saw in the DC Cup deck list, Branded Despia did very well. I did very well against Branded Despia because I had this card. But at the end of the day, like I don't think Protos isn't, like, itself is enough to like propel a deck to the high tier. Even though like this absolutely should not be in the game. I don't care if, like, I like SWORDSOUL, but like you don't, like, get cards like this out of here, please. Like, this is, like, games where this dropped were like the most uninteractive games I've ever played. It's like resolving Maxi against a combo deck. You know, it's like I sure earned that win. You know.